When buying foam, we're constantly asked the question, what else do I need to complete my project? To make the foam easier to cut, glue, shape? Well, you're in luck. Today, we're going to cover all the above. We'll break these items into two groupings, the tools and the consumables. Let's start with the tools first. The two main tools that you can use when cutting foam are the blade corded foam cutter and the blade cordless foam cutter. Now, they seem like they do the same thing, which they do, they cut foam, but they do have two different uses. The corded foam saw, you'll notice, is on rollers. Now that's very important if you're cutting 90-degree angles. You don't have to worry about keeping your blade straight. The rollers seamlessly glide on your work surface and allow you to cut perfectly 90-degree angles. Great for 90% of the foam cutting we do in DIY. For the additional people who have, say, angled cuts or want to do organic shapes, that's what the cordless foam cutter is for. While it still can cut 90-degree angles, it doesn't have the base plate as the corded version does. So it makes it far easier to manipulate. Now, one of the applications we find it most useful for is trimming off foam on upholstery projects, chairs in particular. High-level view, you put your foam on the chair and the cordless foam cutter allows you to easily shave off the edges, preventing you from having to do multiple measurements and then cutting before assembling. Both options are fantastic, and if you plan on cutting a lot of foam, we highly recommend getting both. We promise you'll use them both equally. Now, if you have to choose just one, the cordless foam cutter is probably the one I'd recommend. It is cheaper, but it also allows you to do everything the corded one will do with the added benefit of not having a cord that holds you back. But if you're going to cut high quantities of foam and they are going to be at 90-degree angles, meaning you're going to cut more than, say, 4 cushions, I highly recommend the corded option. Next, let's move on to cutting holes. For cutting holes, we have a 3-piece set, which is also, I guess we also sell them individually, so you can buy the set or you can buy them individually, but 3 different diameters for hole cutters. And why you would use a hole cutter is if you are adding buttons to your upholstery or headboard. And why you need to cut a hole is if you think about installing a button in foam. If you don't cut a hole, you poke your needle through and you start to tension your button. All of that tension is on the thread as opposed to the button. If you cut a hole and you pull it in, not only does the button suck in better, but you're dispersing that stress from the thread to the button and the thread, which results in a lot longer use. Also, when you cut that hole, when you lean back and you're leaning into the sponginess of the foam, because that hole is there, it actually will give even better, resulting in a much longer lasting application for the button. The last tool we have is the foam shaper. And you guessed it, it's basically a glorified cheese grater. And it does the same thing. It shreds off pieces of foam when you need a more rounded shape. Because even if you're cutting an angled cut with your blade foam saw, you're going to have a sharp angle somewhere. If you can't have that and you're not using batting to help round the edge, you need the foam shaper. It allows you to do a couple passes and remove that sharp edge to get rounding or softening of edges. That wraps up the core of the tools that we recommend, so now we'll go into the consumables. And there are really only 2 consumables. CushionRite foam and fabric adhesive, which is pretty self-explanatory. It is a glue for foam. If you've ever wondered, well, why would I do that? There are 2 real reasons you would want to glue foam. One, your application, let's say it's a window bench seat, is much wider than any sheet of foam you can buy. So you have to cut it into sections, glue it together, so you get a longer piece. The second option is to repurpose excess foam. We are constantly finding here in our studio that we use foam for a project, we have a bunch left over. The beauty of foam and glue is when you glue foam together, it creates a permanent attachment, one you can't feel. So you can take all that scrap foam, you can cut it into a bunch of different pieces to make whatever size foam block you need. It's a great way to not waste and highly recommended. The last is CushionRite silk film, and it is probably the most important of all the foam accessories you can buy. It does three amazing things for your foam. It protects the foam from water, preventing water from getting into the foam, molding, and smelling bad. It protects it from UV and oxidation, meaning it won't degrade the foam and fall apart. And third and lastly, it makes it extremely easy to put the foam into or remove from a fabric jacket. What I mean by that is, if you wrap your foam in CushionRite silk film, you can actually apply a shop vac or a vacuum to it, turn it on, and it will suck all the air out of the foam, decreasing its size exponentially, which makes it extremely easy to put it into the fabric jacket. Now you might be wondering, well, so do I do the same thing to remove it? Yeah, absolutely you can. But if you don't want to, because silk film is so slick, it actually allows you to more easily just pull the foam out if you need to. So if you're constantly washing any of your cushions and you push it off because it's such a pain to do, silk film solves that. It protects and it makes your life easier. All these items are linked in the description below, so next time you take on a foam project, be sure to add them to your cart and make your life a whole lot easier.